I have a ton of peers these days that are on TRT. Obviously, there are many benefits to increasing testosterone within the physiologic range. Mm-hmm. Any cool hacks, supplements, anything like that?
Yeah, the way that I describe this is it's like you're trying to get into a sorority or fraternity. Figure out what's blackballing your testosterone. Is it heat damage to the testy? Is it a history of like trauma? Did you have pituitary gland injury? That's why you see more incidents in military that have had pituitary gland injuries, or boxers. Is it your vitamin D? Is it your zinc? Is it your selenium? Is it your cortisol? Is it your LH that's not high enough for a non-pituitary injury reason? So you can look at all these things and you figure out what's holding you back, and it will make a significant benefit. That's why, you can Google, does vitamin D help testosterone? And well, yes, but if your vitamin D is already 90, then it's not going to help your testosterone. And then as far as the cool hacks, I guess none of those are cool hacks. You're just finding what's holding you back. If you consider things like HCG or minotropins, or these things that basically cause your body to produce more testosterone, gonadotropin pumps, gonadotropin microdoses, we give that to people with things like Kallman syndrome, which is where your hypothalamus doesn't produce enough. Again, finding what's holding you back. If you consider those natural, then that's a pretty cool hack. And I have a lot of patients on all of those things, gonadotropin and HCG, sometimes FSH. And if minotropins were more readily available and affordable, then that as well. That's just a combination of FSH and LH. But I do not consider any of those things natural.
I read a study once that found that boron was helpful, at least I think it was like one small study, but it lowered sex hormone binding globulin. I think there was like a boost in free testosterone, if I recall correctly.
The higher your SHBG, the better boron works. Also, the worse your diet. So boron's really high in certain soils. A lot of farmers. I have a friend who farms nuts, and he tests his soil for boron because if he's growing almonds, he wants like very high boron in his almonds. But in general, in the United States and many developed countries, our soils are very depleted of boron. In Greece and Turkey and other countries that happen to make products like dates and raisins, they have a lot more boron, which is why a lot of those things are thought of as high boron foods. Same as anything else, boron can be very helpful. That's why if I'm designing a testosterone vitamin, everyone calls them testosterone boosters, but really they're not. There's nothing about it is a booster. It's just making sure that you haven't forgotten anything. Yes, it's a checklist. Has boron, has magnesium, has zinc, has a dose of ashwagandha that a lot of people call sub-efficacious, but it's the dose that everybody tolerates. Some KSM standardized ashwagandha to 5% with analytes. That's if someone's cortisol is high. It has a little bit of Tongkat Ali in it as well. That's a long jack, which is standardized to uricominones. That's really only helpful if you have high SHBG, low insulin, where you also usually have high SHBG, and low IGF-1. It stimulates those same enzymes. So you're basically checking all these boxes to make sure that you didn't forget anything.
Interesting. So that's like your testosterone boosting multi.
Yeah, I call it a testosterone vitamin. It's called Sigma Testosterone Booster.
Interesting.
But,
have you like compounded that yet, or that's just like, for your patients, you just recommend going out getting each of those supplements?
Gorilla Mind makes it.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Yep.
Is that your company or?
It's not.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a company of Derek, who has the More Plates, More Dates channel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know him, and I don't really know what he's known for. I just know that people know him. But he makes a shampoo that I really like.
Intelligent?
Yeah.
Peppermint one? That's the exact same shampoo that I use.
Yeah, I like it because it has ketoconazole in it.
Yeah, 0.99%.
0.99%? Is that high? Or, I mean, relative to the clinically studied dose?
In the United States, over-the-counter only goes up to 1%.
Oh.
So I prescribe a lot of ketoconazole shampoo, too. I just prescribe the 2%. In Canada, 2% is over-the-counter.
What are the benefits of ketoconazole shampoo? It's been shown as a shampoo to like help boost hair growth, has it not?
Yeah, it's a topical anti-androgen, not a strong one, but similar benefits to other topical anti-androgens. And then it takes care of basically subclinical fungal and bacterial infections. So I love it for my hat wearers or people who sweat a lot or work outdoors. But if you have a very like dandruffy, sebaceous, just like lots of material on your scalp when you're showering, I like it for that reason too. It does make hair really frizzy from time to time. So my hair frizzes up like crazy.
I've noticed that. Yeah. Well, especially with Nizoral, which is like the over-the-counter drugstore, but that's
a lot of Nizoral does not have Ketoconazol shampoo in it.
Wait, what? I thought it.
So a lot of Nizoral has Ketoconazol, and that's what brand name Nizoral used to be. Yeah, my brother bought Nizoral, and it had no Ketoconazol. It was one of their other dandruff formulas, and I also don't like them. Never going to be sponsored by them, but because they don't like when any other companies put Ketoconazol in their shampoo bottle. So I know Derek had to take his off that bottle.
What, do they have a patent on it or something? They can't have a patent on it.
I don't know.
They just.
It kind of reminded me of CrossFit, that if you have like fit or like fittest person, they'll send you a letter or whatnot.
That sucks.
But I don't know, maybe I'm just a naive Kansan or whatnot.
That's so funny. I mean, the Ketoconazol shampoo, I saw these studies. I became aware of these studies a long time ago, and I was like, well, it's just a shampoo, and it seems like it's likely very safe. And if it's like, if it serves as a little bit of added insurance that, my hair is going to stay nice and thick as I get older, I'm just going to use it, And so I was buying this Nizoral junk for a long time, but it's got all these. I used to have that too. It makes your hair really dry and frizzy, and it's like got these like fake fragrances in it, like these synthetic fragrances. But yeah, then I found Derek's.
The volumizing one. I love peppermint. If you don't like peppermint essential oil smell, then you probably won't like it. But I love it.
Yeah. So for the past 6 months, I've been using Intelligent shampoo, and it's good.
Yeah, volumizing shampoo. No longer Ketoconazol. Still has the same amount.
Yeah, that's so funny. What about any other sort of counterintuitive, high leverage tools that you think might be effective, worth investigating for my audience? Because you're obviously so steeped in the science and fairly cutting edge science at that. So yeah, anything else you feel like needs to be on our radar?
Yeah, one thing that I see a lot of males miss is they don't get a quantification of their sperm. So it can be as simple as going to YO Fertility Test. I think that if you get 6 tests, it's something like $15 per test. It's more qualitative than quantitative, I guess, but they don't get any qualification of their sperm, if that makes sense. If they have lower testosterone, it's also helpful to know what your baseline sperm status is, and you can always bank that too. There's several ways to bank it, but that's something that a lot of people miss, and they're better off doing that before they hop on TRT or whatever else. But yeah, the big ones are sleep apnea. That's second most common cause of low T. Metabolic syndrome, so insulin resistance, prediabetes, high body fat percentage. My recommendation to people who don't know if they have that is, rather than get a CGM, they can get a CGM. There's actually over-the-counter Stello, which is basically Dexcom, and over-the-counter, I forget what the Libre one is called.
Freestyle.
Yeah, but they have an over-the-counter version that's launching that's also going to have ketones and, is it lactate? No, not lactate, not yet. Ketones and alcohol. So Freestyle, Lingo, that's what I think it's called, Lingo, Lingo. But they can get those. Those are over the counter now, and they're cheap with a manufacturer coupon anyway. $30 per 14-day sensor or 10-day sensor. But also get a DEXA scan. You want to be under 25% body fat for males, under 35% body fat for females, at minimum. So there's goals a lot under that too, for aesthetic reasons or athletic reasons. But for hormone optimization reasons, those are pretty reasonable cutoffs. And then the last one would be, make sure you check a prolactin, and ideally an IGF-1 as well. Pituitary microadenomas are not super rare. They're common enough to where I order a lot of MRIs in people that have low LH or low FSH or high prolactin.
Interesting. And these are all fairly common labs, like your typical lab?
They should be. Yeah.
Interesting.
If your primary care won't order them, if you go to, and I put all my recommended lab panels on my website too. You can print those off and then take it to any doctor. And if they're willing to order it, just make sure it'll go through your insurance, because it can be 10, in general, the lab markup is 10 times.
Wow.
It's like there's all these what I call self-service lab startups, to where they buy the labs for wholesale for 1/10 the cost and then double or triple the cost, which is a great business model. But if people just want the actual labs that I recommend, then they can go and look at like my hormone optimization panel or my comprehensive panel or my hair loss panel. And they can take that in case their insurance covers it, which it does about maybe 10 or 20% of the time. Usually you have to have a really fancy insurance plan for that to be the case. But anyways, they can track this longitudinally. And if they just want to order a very basic lab, I think every one of my panels has prolactin, LH, and FSH in it.
Prolactin is like the breastfeeding like hormone, is it not?
Yeah, so prolactin increases after, it's very transient, only a half-life of a few hours. It increases after lactation, breastfeeding. It also increases after orgasms. It also increases after seizures. So when a patient comes into the ER and we're not sure if that tonic-clonic seizure where they're moving a lot was a pseudo seizure or a real seizure, we check a prolactin, because that can be elevated very soon after a seizure.
What role does prolactin play in men?
Prolactin and dopamine kind of have a tug of war. I suppose you could say if you were wanting to like produce breast secretions, you want your prolactin to be high. That's why we treat people with dopamine antagonists, or things like metoclopramide, which is Reglan, to both males and females to increase milk production. But dopamine is kind of your motivation hormone, not necessarily reward, but motivation, and to some degree effort, feeling good. And then prolactin is your more chill hormone, your blah hormone. So if you have super low prolactin, then perhaps you're overly stimulated. If you're on medications like Wellbutrin, which is bupropion, that can lower your prolactin. But if your prolactin is too high, then your dopaminergic tone, if you will, is often not enough. So your tug of war is too much on that side. But if you look at sleep data, I forget which company looked at this, but both for males and females, not necessarily after masturbation, but after intercourse, both of their prolactin increases, and they generally get to sleep a little bit easier and sleep a little bit better as well. So some of that is likely prolactin.
Interesting. So it is raised after sex, and it's at least in part responsible for that like post-coitus chill.
Without getting any labs, a good estimate of what your prolactin would be is what your refractory period is. So in what interval period of time can you have X number of orgasms? It's largely governed by prolactin in men. So that being said, all those things are kind of niche. Prolactin's mostly just important in women.
Post-nut clarity, maybe it plays a role in that. Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.